morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind in the Morning. This is 72 the Architect. With today, we're going to look at, are you looking in the mirror? Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the importance of looking in the mirror and reflecting on your progress. What are you seeing in the mirror and reflecting to our understanding and our beliefs about ourselves? Is it important to take a time to look in the mirror and reflect on what we see? Now, looking in the mirror in reflecting on our progress is one of the most important things that we can do to rise to our potential and achieve our goals. But by looking in the mirror, we can better understand our strengths and weaknesses and work towards correcting these areas. And by reflecting on our progress, we can stay on track and make sure that our progress is heading to the right direction. This show this morning goes pretty much on that track and that track alone. So let's dive into and look at how we can look in the mirror and better ourselves in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Rise and Grind in the Morning, and I'm 72, like I was saying. So I was reading something in the Daily Stoic, and pretty much I start most of my shows out with that. It's a book published by Ryan Holiday, and I highly suggest it. I've been doing it for 2 years, and I ask the questions I read over and over because to me, great training and great practice lead into great works. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to ask first a question. The question of the day is, are there any feelings I need to face? That's right, I said it. Are there any feelings that you need to face? Now, the Stoic quote of the day says, it's better to conquer grief than to deceive it, by Seneca from his Consolation of Helvia 17:1.b. Now, on page 364 on the Daily Stoic, this is where it's printed and published. It says, don't hide from your feelings. Why is that so important right now? Now, right now, we normally go inward. We're in the winter for many of us. In some parts of the world, it's summer. But either way, it doesn't matter where you are, you can still take advantage of this season. You can either enjoy the surroundings of your life, or you're going to come inward. You might be in your home a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit more difficult to go outside and not do the things, but still we're going to be thinking about those things that are we making the right choices? Am I connecting with the right people? Do I work with the right things? Am I really fulfilled? Am I doing enough? These are all questions that we daily ask ourselves. And sometimes they come out real like loud, and other times it's like a passing thought, like, kind of like a waiting out for a subway train and the next train passes up because it wasn't the train that you need to get on. It's a thought that floats through. Now, when I thought about this and I read the rest of what Ryan had to say, he was really talking kind of about grief, but we're going to talk more about than grief. So he goes on to say, we've all lost people that we're close to, a friend, a colleague, a parent, a grandparent. While we were suffering from our grief, some well-meaning person did their best to take care of the mind off of it and make us think about something else for a couple of hours. However, kind gestures are misguided. The Stoics are stereotyped as suppressing their emotions, but the philosophy was actually intended to teach us to face the process and deal with the emotions immediately instead of running from them. Tempting with emotions immediately instead of running from them, tempting as to deceive yourself on hiding from powerful emotions like grief, as it is the deceive yourself to hide from a powerful emotion like grief by telling yourself other people that they're fine. Awareness and understanding are better. Distractions might be pleasant in the short term, but by going to gladiatorial games, as Romans might have done, for an example, focusing is better in the long term. That means facing it now. Process and parse what you're feeling. Remove your expectations, your entitlements, and your sense of having been wronged. Find the positive in the situation. but also sit with your pain and accept it, remembering that it's a part of life. That's how we conquer grief. Now, recently we've had quite a few stars and very influential people that have died. And some of us who've had relatives, one of um, my cousins, my dad's first cousin, Benito, he passed away this week, and he was a very strong man, a father, a mentor. He was an amazing individual, and he passed away. And I saw the pictures, and I found out through my cousin Alicia, who actually introduced to me a lot of my relatives in Mexico. And she was processing her grief and telling me all about Benito. And I can't say I really knew him that well, but still, the man's reputation preceded him. There were many family and many people amongst his community who really came out and to appreciate him. But grief is only one part of, like, death is only one part of grief. And what about the things I've heard many colleagues, and I've seen many media posts about being single, being lonely in these times. The winter causes us to go in more. We want to reflect. We want to be comforted and appreciated because it's very important. But the biggest step that I can suggest to you is how you actually start with looking in the mirror. Are you happy? Are you proud of yourself? Are you not where you want to be? Do you keep talking someday, my goals, my dreams? I was having a conversation with my girlfriend just even yesterday, and we were talking about the difference between goals and dreams. And I say they're almost synonymous with each other and very slightly different. Now, her explanation was that dreams are something that you kind of think of and then maybe you hope to achieve. And goals are actually somewhere like a destination that you're going to achieve and make an addition to you, an achievement that makes you feel accomplished and welcomed and causes your self-esteem to go up. But I believe it's more than that. When I think exactly about a lot what's going on with our world, a lot of people are scared. They're afraid. But we have to ask the question, are you really afraid, or are you just afraid of the lack of opportunity? Now, it's a very, very important thing, I feel. And if we're not looking at it carefully, the fear can run us into the ground. And so many of us have. I've already heard plenty of my colleagues who have literally said to me, "Hey, Jason, I'm already planning for 2023. What are you doing?" I said, "I haven't really planned too much for 2023. I have a few simple things that I put in the ground, and I'm not really talking about too much." Now, when me and my girlfriend were talking about the difference between dreams and goals, I use them in unison. When I say my dream is to become an attorney. My dream is to be a successful man. And what does that look like? My goals are also to be that attorney, to be that successful one, to be the provider, to be able to be really a master of my own fate. Aha, I caught it. The master of my own fate. Now, some people might debate, like, hey, you don't master your fate. But I beg to differ. Your fate is something that you work within your purpose. The fate of your choices, the equation equals, the sum of what you've done. They're all all a part of the fate, all the ingredients you put into the things that you put into play and didn't do or did do. At the end of the day, how we reflect as a process, as a benefit, is a huge part of our lives. I write daily in my journal. I write a daily stoic journal, and I also write my fitness. I reflect on my heart rate. I use a blood pressure cuff, and I check my blood pressure. I check my blood sugar. I'm diabetic. I look at the amount of exercise that I put in, 30 to 45 minutes a day. I look at the quality of people that I'm around, the conversations that I'm in. I reflect on these things. I ask the stoic question, you know, and today I haven't really answered it yet. Is there any feelings, or are there any feelings that I need to face? Well, yes, there are. In the last 24 hours, because it's December 8th, it's been a very powerful atmosphere. The moon, I've been told, I don't know if they called it the aggressor moon, but it's like something facing in Jupiter or whatever, something in Sagittarius. I don't know all that stuff, but what I do know was the environment. The electricity in the air was intense. And I did notice that people are angry. Things are coming out that they've been suppressing in themselves. and then they let it blurt out. They voice out what they're angry with. Matter of fact, I got into a really hard discussion with my significant other. And one of the things that we had covered was, being honest, Jason, working with what I have to feel and focus on. I deal with what they call the nice guy syndrome, and it's not very easy. But I also deal with having Asperger's, focused, and sometimes feeling discombobulated. I have so many options, so many things to do. And sometimes, as my counsel, she says, "Hey, Jason, you're stretching yourself out too thin. And this is how you get into trouble. Please take an evaluation of what you manage and have on your plate." And as I thought about it, and I didn't respond right away, and I gave it some thought, and I'm like, you're right, but these are the things that I want to do. And I'm going to have to be the one to reflect and manage what's on my plate. I cannot let anyone just tell me anything. And I have to have some sort of, let's say, boundaries, borders, and I have to deal with them. Now, this is why I say be cautious about the people that hold you accountable, because once someone holds you accountable, they will not want to let go. Because why? It's a power. And this is why it's so important to look in the mirror, to look at and evaluate yourself. I've heard many different things like the thing called imposter syndrome and how people are faking it till they make it, but it's just not realistic. It's not worth going into. And when I look at these things, when I look at the process, when I look at what is actually in play, I start to like ignore things that are coming on in the ear sight or the eyesight. I'm not looking at people who are in misery. I need to really evaluate how I see myself operating with these people, bring a positive attitude, appreciate my situation. I remember also really getting into it with family members. And I was like, what did I get into it for? How did my emotions get to accelerate to this point? Now, no one will ever take you seriously and validate you the way that you might want to be. I believe you have to establish those things for yourself. So what do I see in the mirror? Now today I saw my eyes. I looked at my hair. I looked at myself. I started looking at my body. Guess what? I've lost quite a bit of weight. Since October 29th of this year, I started working out without fail, exercising every single day for 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes a day. And I've got to thank my friend Barbara Majeski for her holiday challenge. And she's going to do another one next year. She's going to do more challenges. So if you want to just look up Barbara Majeski. She has a podcast. I suggest her. Just giving her a personal shout out. But what I didn't realize is when I started doing this fitness challenge, this workout challenge, this holiday challenge, I started looking internally. As I was working out, sometimes the emotions were coming out through effort. Reflection of my thoughts were coming to fruition. What I was hiding from, what I've been hiding from other people. Was I really being realistic? And at the end of the day, I started feeling better. And using my therapy, I see two therapists. I have a family therapist, and then I have, a psychotherapist. So each serves a different purpose. But the one thing that I really got from the both of them, I've been suggested to read this book called Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns. And he talks about cognitive therapy. And one of the first things I believe it's in chapter 4, he talks about self-esteem. Now, in reflection, when you look in reflecting, you're looking at yourself. This is the beginnings of self-esteem. How important is self-esteem to you? It's something that we relate to in confidence, and we have to do it regularly. If we want to become stronger and accelerate, get out of our comfort zones, we're going to have to start really working on that self-esteem. Now, you may join a workout program, you may be on a brand new diet, you may be in a new occupation or position, but at the end of the day, they have to be benefits to you. And evaluating those decisions, how you operate with people is very important. I'm not an expert in this. I do not have it all figured out. But what I do have enough figured out is I permit myself to practice. I read the Daily Stoic. I read other books. I read Marcus Aurelius. I read Seneca. I read Epictetus. I read things. I read financial books to help me grow my experience. Look at my investments. Be proud of what I've accomplished. And that's the thing that you have to really enjoy about your day. It's going to be work at first, of course. Any mastery, when you first start out with anything, and it doesn't matter really where you're at in your life, anytime you start something, there is going to be level of difficulty. So let's go over a few of those keys of how to look in the mirror. Number one, actually step yourself and look in the mirror. Comb your hair, brush your teeth, look at your eyes. Talk to yourself. I do. I'm great. I am beautiful. I'm amazing. I am complete. I am a man. I am a father. I say these things to not just hear it, but believe it. Now, why would you say, well, what are you going to not believe it? Well, that's the catch. When a lot of times we put things on the shelf because we don't want to look in the mirror. We'd rather focus on somewhere else, or we're so busy with other people's purposes that getting to ourselves, we're exhausted. And then it becomes emotional and overwhelming. So, looking in the mirror 5 minutes a day, talking to yourself, comb your hair, like I said, put yourself together, be happy. Then the next part, reflection. Read something. Read something daily. Like I said, I read the Daily Stoic every day. And with that, there's the journal question. I ask these questions to myself to face the difficulties. And sometimes they reveal situations that I've been neglecting or putting away. And by processing, kind of like what Ryan was saying, processing those emotions, processing those things to not bite you in the ass later, right? I think it's very important. We don't like things when they come up from the past and stall us, take us out of our movement. It happens a lot with many of us. So, like I was saying, I was on TikTok, and there's been different instances where I've made good things and referred bad things. But still, at the end of the day, these are my reflections, my thoughts, some things that I identify, and they're not going to always agree with people. Matter of fact, I got into a huge disagreement. Regardless of what the disagreement and what I represent, not everything's clear cut. And I think the biggest problem, the next part of the process, stop summing up people together. That means whether it's men, women, friends, people do things in habits and patterns. But I would also encourage you to stop evaluating other people's patterns. Evaluate yours. That's right, I said it. Evaluate your patterns. Look at yourself. Deal with yourself so that when you deal with others, it's probably not a pretty bad blow. It's actually probably sometimes a confirmation. Maybe it's something that exposes you to a better sense of self. Building your self-esteem and your confidence does not come easy. It comes with a cost. For me, there was a lots of parts of my life that I had lied and I just had to hide from. I did things out of survival that did not equate, and I've had to pay the price for it. And what I can tell you is that this morning I felt more confidence. Regardless of the atmosphere of what was going on, I made sure that, as my colleague and friend C-Rock, who's also a podcaster, thrust is a must. You push through those difficult feelings. You practice, you put in the reps, just like when you go to the gym and you want to get in better shape, bigger muscle, stronger, a stronger you. You've got to push through even when you don't want to. And like Ryan was saying in the Daily Stoic, Stoics are not here to be like on top of a mountain saying, I'm all wise and I'm emotionless. No, they learn how to cultivate their emotions for the best of them. And I think that's very important at the end of the day. Are you processing things for the best of you? Now, be cautious because you may get that affirmation of what needs to change, but change takes time. And I can bet money that nothing changes overnight. And many of us discuss that. If things don't change overnight, that's fine. But there can be incremental changes. And James Clear's book, which I refer to often, The Atomic Habits, small incremental improvements, efforts equal to longevity and change. And I've heard, in the military that, hey, smooth and steady becomes quick. And that's the thing is our perceptional value, which is the next part of reflection and, building self-esteem is the way that you use your optics. You know, you don't always need to second guess yourself or critically think, is this really going to take away from me? Um, there's going to be risk involved. And with risk, sometimes there's loss. Sometimes there's a stagnant feeling until you've reached a certain crafting point and then you accelerate, you go forward. But you've got to remember there's a time to recess. That means sit back, chill out. Don't be so hard on yourself. And there's times push through, get through. Don't sit on that couch. Don't talk yourself of not getting out of bed. One of the things that I've heard amongst my colleagues, many of them have said, the most important part of my day is when I start to get up. And for the people that who are trying to get it together, their biggest problem is I have a hard time getting up because I keep pressing the snooze button. Well, if you've negotiated out of getting out of bed and you've negotiated in, which is stronger? Are you really aware of your choice? So you can't hide from your actions and your choices. They're there. They've existed. And some people have talked about how not to lie to yourself, lie to others. Look at the way that you use your language. Look at the way that you use your body, your spirit. You put off an energy no matter what you what you think. And even for the people like my girl was kind of talking to me about how, you've got to have a better poker face. Stop showing your emotions so easily. And I appreciate what she's saying, you know, but that's the part of my honesty. And I'm developing when to reveal and when not to. I'm not an expert. I'm not any better. Sometimes I'm explosive and I want to get mad and I scream. But who it's around and whom to it's which, where that rage goes, I'm looking to keep it to a minimum. And that's why I really believe that, you know, when I was talking about goals and dreams, my message of goals and dreams is completely different from others. Now, when I say I have a dream of becoming something, that means that there's going to be more than likely a strong directional choice that I want to go. And that inspiration, that illusion at first can become reality. And that's the thing is it's the vision. The dream is the vision. The goal is the process. Now, kind of interesting that you say that, right? Or think that the goal is the process. Well, one connects to another. I don't keep them separate. If I say I've dreamed about being on a major stage, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And when I think about this and how important it is to me, you know what? I start making choices and actions. Now, along with that, there are going to be consequences. There are going to be costs. Sometimes I have to ignore family and friends. Sometimes I have to ignore certain responsibilities. And I have to go forward, making a clear positional choice and having that goal and connect it to the dream to my real life. Now, some people, like she kind of used like an example yesterday when we were talking, like, well, if I dreamed about being the Queen of England, how likely is that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't dream about things that are kind of vague and ambiguous. So it's something to kind of reflect on. How are you using the language of dreams and goals? I try to keep them together. And then there's thoughts. Yeah, I thought about this. Wanted to make this happen. Wanted to, you know what? Sure, I dreamed about being a superhero. And I don't really have any much inertia to go and do it. It was, I don't know. But it's how we define our dreams. Is it a vague tense and a hope and a wish? Or is it something about reality? Well, I need to be with reality. and judge myself less harshly. And as I was talking to my significant other, we were talking about, I've always told her that to some degree, I've wanted to use podcasting and wanted to use how I speak. And my passion is really here. Sometimes I have a lot of listeners, sometimes I have very little. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to keep pushing through and keep making that content and challenging myself to perform better. Look in the camera, look into you, and hopefully, you know what? You might just enjoy this material, which starts to bring us to a starting of a close. The next process, believing and seeing in what you reflect on. Now, there are illusions in our reflections. We may be saying to ourselves, well, I'm getting older. My face is getting wrinkly and I'm not as young. I'm not as vibrant. And I'm doing all these treatments. I mean, I have friends who have extreme amounts of beauty regimens, and that's fine for them. But I look at my face. Sometimes I look at the age. I look at little wrinkles. Sometimes there's some scars, but I'm beautiful. I'm amazing. And I don't doubt myself for being that. I look at my face, I look at my hair. I have nothing but benefits right now. And I believe that. I'm not lying to myself and I'm not lying to others. I'm not really so much concerned about how others view me. I have my own independent thoughts, and that's the beautiful thing about reflection. It's more important to me before it's important to somebody else. Now, if someone gives me a pat on the back and appreciates what I do, that's cool. No problem. But it doesn't stop me. And that's been a big part of my life is I did want approval. I did want clout. I have wanted. And I'm not going to say I completely got away from it, but the majority is I have been indifferent. I've been eccentric. I've been saying things that are not very comfortable for others. And lately, I've been pivoting myself and not responding to most things, not saying how I really think or feel to others, because let them pass. No matter who it is, family, close ones, colleagues, whoever it is, I've taken the time to reserve my choice, my given choice. And with that being said, I'm available to do as I please and as I need. Now, there are consequences for that because I am a father. I do have to provide. I've got to make that income. I support people. I love being with my lady. Love being with my 5-year-old. I miss my 15-year-old. I miss my 26-year-old. I love my girls. And I'm really beginning to start to enjoy and love my life. And looking in the mirror and writing reflections has definitely been a part of that process. So here's what I would suggest start doing. Also, the last part, journaling. Now, when I write in my journal, I usually write at the top the title of the day. So today would be, facing my fears, right? And so I put the daily stoic question, and then I put the small quote, morning reflection, write a paragraph or two, just say how I feel, what I feel about the question. Then I leave a spot open, evening reflection, and then on the next page, a summary of the days of events. And that means my blood pressure, my blood sugar, my exercise, what I read, but it goes into my feelings, the problems I personally faced, how I overcame them either today or something that I need to do for tomorrow, or maybe the days ahead. Take the value of reflection, especially in journaling, and read. Go over once a week of what you wrote, what you faced, what you dealt with, maybe even once a month. Let that be a source for you. And I think this is where I'm going to come to a close. When we take all these things and look at the reflection, and I'm not just talking about grief, for the plus and the minus, you'll become a better person and more aware of your choices. And that's what I want you to encourage. Encourage you to think about those choices for a better tomorrow, better you today. All right. Well, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will be adding more content in the next week or so. So hopefully you all have a great day. Make sure you share this, like it, leave a comment. I would love to see what your feedback is. And let me know. Maybe this has benefited you. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a great day.